Hello and welcome to this feature interview. I'm Emily Carrier. The 2014 Winter Olympics wrapped up on Sunday in Sochi, Russia. And joining me on the Allen set today to give her unique perspective on international athletics is Emory and Henry Sports Management Professor Dr. Rebecca Buchanan. Professor, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Now, you have a class on coaching and officiating this semester. Tell me about your class discussion. I'm sure that's really exciting with the Olympics going on this semester.
Yes, so we've spent some time talking about the Olympics. We've watched a few clips in class relating to Sochi. We have had some discussions different from maybe some of the media commentators in relation to expatriatism of some of the athletes who maybe left one country and went to another to compete. So we've had some in-depth conversations about topics like that and about ethics and morals, the infrastructure that remains once the Olympics have completed. So it's been a very interesting and eye-opening experience, hopefully, for the students based on the topics we've discussed.
And before you became a professor, you interned with the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games. Tell me about that.
So as part of my master's degree, when I was at the University of Tennessee, I had a unique opportunity that particular year to work in helping to plan the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. So I actually lived in Atlanta, worked, and basically went in every day and planned all the various aspects of the Olympic Games, down to how many towels do you need to have on practice fields, transportation issues, and many of the small details that have to fall into place to pull off a successful Olympic experience.
And taking you back even a little bit further, you have international athletic experience yourself. You tried out for the Olympics. Tell me about that.
So in 1996, again with the Olympics being in Atlanta, I tried out. I was a 400-meter hurdler. So I tried out and actually was fifth at the trials. It actually was held at the same venue as where the Olympic Games were held. And I had the opportunity to compete in a Grand Prix meet that was held prior to the Olympic Games. So I actually was able to run on that particular track twice prior to the Olympics. So it's a wonderful experience. Heartbreaking and disappointing that it didn't work out, but I would not trade it in for anything in this world. And I ran the best time I'd ever ran in my life at the trials. So that's pretty much all I could ask at that given point in time.
So you competed in the same facility that was used for the Olympic Games. And did that change your perspective watching the games that year?
Yes, it was hard to watch because I wanted more than anything to be there. But I was also happy for the athletes, some of those of which I was friends with, who actually made it and competed well. And so it was really a lot of fun to see them compete and do well in the actual Olympics that particular year.
And being a part of this whole experience, I know in Sochi this year there's been a lot of talks of safety and security. Was that an issue in the 96 Olympics that you remember?
Well, if you remember, there was a bomb that went off at the 96 Olympics, not at the particular venue, but there was a stage outside. So there were even safety and security concerns even then. When I competed in Russia a few years after the Olympics, there was also concerns for security for some of the large athletic events they were having then. But even then they had a lot of armed guards, a lot of military police and personnel around, which even then made you feel pretty safe and given the relationship to any type of terrorist attacks or anything like that.
You said you competed in Russia. What kind of event was that for?
Well, what happens is on the years where there are not Olympics being held, they have different types of opportunities to compete with a national team. So for example, I ran with the World Championship team representing the U.S. in 1997, which was the year following the Olympics. So I actually made that particular team, and it was in Greece. So I competed there in Athens for the U.S. team. In Russia, the same was true. In other countries, in Europe and other countries, they often have Grand Prix circuits in the summers, and you can make pretty decent money when you go over there. But you can compete in the various meets, and you travel from country to country, and you basically just compete on the circuit and make money for appearance fees, for the time that you run, or the place that you finish.
Traveling in international athletics, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Communication is hard. It was the first time I'd been outside the country, and entering, for example, when I got to Italy one morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, all by myself, and not being able to speak Italian and trying to find the hotel. So there were unique challenges that I came to appreciate for individuals when they come to the U.S. if they're not fluent in English, about how intimidating and frustrating that can be. So it taught me a lot about learning how to communicate, whether or not you can speak the language or not.
And the same question, but what are some of the most rewarding experiences you have from all of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, in one of the events where I was competing for the U.S. team, I believe it was in Japan, we were lined up very similar to what it reminded me of in Sochi, in an area before you came out onto the field to march around when all the teams were introduced, and someone started a USA chant. And so it resounded off the concrete walls underneath the bleachers, and it was just the most incredible feeling to hear everyone in the entire area chanting USA before we walked out. So that's probably one of my favorite memories.
And Dr. Buchanan, bringing all of these perspectives you have as a professor, as an athlete, and as an intern, what are your thoughts on Sochi?
I think they carried off a wonderful Winter Olympics. I'm glad that there was not any type of terrorist attacks in that general area, because it was frustrating to me to think about athletes who had spent so long preparing for something that meant so much to them, that I didn't want them to have to be concerned with their safety. So I'm really glad that they were able to pull it off. I think they spent $51 billion on preparing for the Olympics. So my hope is that the infrastructure that they're leaving behind is also very valuable in terms of the residents of the communities, rather than all that money being spent only for the games, and they not having the benefit of the long-lasting legacy of what the Olympics meant to them having it there in that area.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your experiences and your perspective with me today.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for watching. This has been your EHC TV feature interview. For Dr. Buchanan, I'm Emily Carrier, and now we'll send it over to Tweet, Pray, Love with Cole Conley.